Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Amtrak Vacations presentation today on Life on Board, some of our most iconic routes. I'm going to begin by introducing myself. My name is Andy Channel. I'll be your host for today. I'm the Vice President of Product here at Yankee Leisure Group and Amtrak Vacations. So not only do my team and I design and manage all of our great vacations and exciting trips around the Amtrak train, but I've also had the chance to travel throughout the Amtrak network, and I'm going to be sharing with you not only professional knowledge, but a ton of firsthand experience based on my travels on Amtrak and its iconic routes as well. So what are some of the points that we're going to cover in today's discussion? We're going to talk about those specific scenic and popular and famous iconic train routes that Amtrak offers, in which we include in our vacation products. We're going to be talking about sleeping accommodations, some of the benefits of upgrading to a private room on the train, as well as what that experience is like while traveling on board. We're going to share some opportunities to save a limited time offer that's currently running. We're going to talk about how you actually can build any one of these great vacations out from your hometown, how our team can get you to any of our great vacations from any place on the Amtrak network, as well as sharing with you the health and safety standards and protocols currently in place on board the train to make sure Amtrak is a healthy and safe, not only as well as a fun place to travel as well. So as we're introducing myself and the topics for today, I did want to come back to who we are as well, especially if you're a first-time attendee. So for all those newcomers, and we have a huge crowd turned out today for today's presentation, I got to say welcome to everyone, but particularly to those first-timers. If you're not familiar with us, who are we? Yankee Leisure Group has been in business since 1972. So we've been going on now 50 years, 5 decades of providing great vacations to customers like yourselves. And that began with our longest standing brand, Yankee Holidays. Been with us from the beginning. Yankee Holidays offers great vacations in places throughout the US and Canada. Great cities, national parks. Each and every one of those vacations includes hotel, sightseeing, key museum admissions, dining experiences, all the elements of a great vacation. Every one of those trips is independent, meaning these aren't group travel experiences. There's no tour leader. There's no group of 30 or 40 strangers you're traveling with for days on end, and a very rigid sort of vacation experience. Every one of these trips is independent, meaning we've done the planning and included our expertise, booked the hotels, made sure everything is set up just the way you want it, but you go just with who you brought with you and at your own pace. That same type of experience extends to our next brand, Amtrak Vacations, also an independent travel brand where you're going at your own pace with our structure and our expertise, but just who you bring with you. We are the official tour operator for Amtrak, and our Amtrak Vacations products essentially are the same independent travel experience where we're taking a great destination, including the hotels, the sightseeing tours you need, meals, all those fun things, and all the same destinations throughout North America, national parks, great cities like New Orleans and Charleston. But we're combining that with the train. Oftentimes, not just one destination either, sometimes multiples, where you're not only experiencing great places to go, but you're taking these amazing, iconic, and really, really scenic experiences on board Amtrak itself. That's going to be the focus of today's presentation. Our third brand, Railbookers, very much like what we offer on Amtrak Vacations in terms of the type of trips and the style of travel, but for destinations in Alaska, Canada, Europe, and throughout the rest of the world. So that's a little bit about us. Now, if you've never seen this map before, I do think it can be really, really eye-opening, and it really highlights two important things I think everybody should know when considering a vacation on Amtrak or with us at Amtrak Vacations. All of those colored lines you see, folks, are different long-distance trains, the Amtrak network that crisscrosses the country from one coast to the other and a whole bunch in between. What it really highlights is, first, all the great places you can go. National parks, great cities, some of the best loved destinations for travel anywhere in the US this year or any other. It also gives you a sense of how many places a journey can begin. I alluded to at the beginning that we can take any one of our great vacations and build it as an experience from your hometown. That's absolutely true. There are over 500 stations on the Amtrak network. Any one of those can be the start of an amazing vacation. So all the trips we're going to feature today or any of the hundreds of others you can find on AmtrakVacations.com, if you check out our website, can be modified and often is to include departure from your local Amtrak station, from your hometown, and sometimes round trip rail back there as well. It really depends on what you're looking for. I did also want to highlight all the great vacations. We're going to see a number of these today. Almost everyone, and certainly dozens more on our website, are eligible for our flash sale, which has been extended through this week, where you can save up to $500 off for a couple when booking our great rail vacations. Definitely, if you see a trip you like today, or if you've seen one on our website at amtrakvacations.com, when you call in to one of our rail and vacation experts at that 800-268-7252 number, be sure to mention the flash sale. They will absolutely make sure you save that extra cash put aside for your upcoming vacation. But definitely inquire, and that's going to run through the end of this Friday. It was just extended. It was supposed to end last week. We've carried it over for one more week, but ending this Friday. So be sure to take advantage. Now, at the end of the presentation, with whatever time remains to us, I am going to take some questions from you all in the field. And I'm sure at the beginning, you probably saw indicated on your interface there where you can throw some questions in, and I can see some of you already are. That's fantastic. At the end, we will get to your questions, but one of the ones that comes up early that I figured I'd get to right at the beginning is what Amtrak has done to make sure the train is healthy and safe. We all know it's scenic. We all know it travels to all these great places, but is it a healthy experience? And my answer is absolutely yes. Our partners over at Amtrak have done a fantastic job making sure your Amtrak experience is about the healthiest way to travel you're going to find. And how have they done that? There's a number of different ways. Cleaning standards on board the train are meticulous, particularly right now with constant cleaning of seats, private rooms, common areas, stations, you name it, every surface, every area, sanitized and healthy to make sure you can travel confidently, knowing every place you're going to spend time is constantly cleaned and maintained. Air is circulated, of course, on board the train regularly, so you're constantly getting a fresh supply of air. Coverings, masks, and so forth are required in station when you're transiting to your train and on board. Although one of the great perks of booking a private room is, of course, when you're in your own private space, that does not apply. You can relax, take it off, and be comfortable and still be healthy. They've removed cash from all transactions or physical contact, really, even beyond monetary transactions. So certainly any purchases, like if you're on the train purchasing a snack, that's all done with no contact. It's done by credit card. You don't have to have that extra level of physical interaction. Even ticket checking and that sort of thing is all done without contact. So contact-free environment on board the train and in stations. Capacity has been reduced to 50% or less to ensure there's maximum social distancing on board. And of course, the access to private rooms means your opportunity to upgrade into a private space where it's just you and your travel companion, or just you if you're going as a single traveler, and really have your own private space on board the train. Same onboard experience, same beautiful scenes, great dining, and all the other things that go with a long distance train journey, but in your own private room on board. So great perk there. And just a snapshot of some of the great things Amtrak has done so that you know you're traveling in the most healthy way possible on board the train. So let's talk about some great train routes and some amazing ways to experience them, some great vacations that are a possibility. One of my absolute favorite trips, especially if you're looking into your first Amtrak vacation potentially, or you really want to see the highlights, you want to see some of the best scenic routes and some of the greatest destinations we offer, I always love to share Northern Rail experience. In addition to the two great cities it stops off in, Seattle and San Francisco, those are very nice experiences. The real highlight of this trip is the fact that it takes in three of the most scenic railroads: the Empire Builder, the Coast Starlight, and the California Zephyr. Three of the best in terms of iconic routes and famous scenery. I'm going to take you through each and every one of these from start to finish. So the trip begins with a departure from Chicago, unless we modify it to go from your hometown. As I said, any one of those 500 plus Amtrak stations can be your start point and your ending point. But assuming Chicago, you depart out for a 2-night journey on board the train itself. That train route is the Empire Builder, which basically hugs the northern section of the U.S. border. Travels north up through Lake Country, up through Wisconsin, Minnesota, up through the Badlands and past through the Dakotas, and ultimately into the foothills of the Rockies in Montana. That's just in the first day. So that's traveling overnight. After it passes by Glacier National Park, you're really heading into the northern stretch of the American Rockies, traveling through northern Idaho, through the Cascades Mountains, and on down into Seattle. Along the way, you're treated to a number of amazing stretches of outdoor scenery. You get a sense of that in the image on the left and some of the views possible outside the windows in that shot in the upper right. The scenery from the train is absolutely magnificent. And I'll share with you, if there's a single feature I most love, and there are several I really enjoy, but the one I most love about traveling by Amtrak for a vacation is the scenery. The train takes you to places, honestly, that are almost impossible to access any other way. And the best part is you're not hiking high into this mountain range or braving trails or driving on these really like dangerous roads to get out in the middle of nowhere to see this beautiful scenery. The train basically allows you to relax on board in comfort in your private room, in your comfortable seats, in the observation car, and let basically the train bring the scenery to you. And these breathtaking landscapes, one after another, you're relaxing on board in comfort. They're right outside this amazing viewing window, one after another. Really, and I've said this for many years, really an Amtrak Vacations customer like yourselves is someone who generally appreciates that getting to a great destination where the sightseeing is going to be wonderful and the experience will be enjoyable, getting there doesn't have to be an unpleasant prelude to that destination. The journey can be every bit as enjoyable as the place you want to go. And when you see the route like the Empire Builder and you travel on this train for a couple nights and see this amazing stretch of countryside across the northern US, I have a feeling you're going to agree. So you'll arrive, you'll spend a couple nights in Seattle. Every one of our vacation packages, as I said, includes train, hotels, but also sightseeing. We have admission to a couple really popular attractions already included for you in Seattle. You can head up to the top of the famous Space Needle on the left side of that image right there, with amazing views of Elliott Bay, the city. Way off in the distance there, you can see famous Mount Rainier, another great national park in and of itself. Incidentally, we can do day trips out to something like Mount Rainier from Seattle. So if you like this vacation, and we're going to come back to this point later, you can customize trips to include additional sightseeing and other options, something like that. Very easy to do. But automatically with the vacation, you get the admission to the Space Needle, as well as the Chihuly Garden and Glass exhibit. If you're not familiar, this is a very famous glass sculpture, and there's a whole at the right, kind of at the base of the Space Needle. This is amazing combination of garden and sculpture garden with all these amazing glass constructions all over the place. Really, really beautiful art installation you can check out while you're there, and of course, plenty of free time to explore Pike's Place Market. Watch them toss the fish, grab a seafood dinner by the water. Anything you like to see and do, certainly have the flexibility to do exactly that. From Seattle, you're going to head south on the famous Coast Starlight train, which runs the length of the West Coast from Seattle in the north all the way down to Los Angeles in the extreme south, hugging a part of the Pacific coastline along the way. The northern stretch where you're traveling through, you're actually going to pass through this amazing stretch of Pacific Northwest scenery. I mean, these breathtaking evergreen forests, gorges and rocky canyons, rocky rivers, waterfalls, you name it. Really, really beautiful stretch of the Pacific Northwest as you head down through Washington, Oregon, and ultimately Northern California before reaching San Francisco. So the Coast Starlight, another one of these great famous train routes. Scenic, you will travel overnight to reach San Francisco. So taking in some great scenery, sleeping on board the train, and ultimately arriving to the city by the bay. You're there for a couple of evenings. Certainly plenty of time to visit and explore the city itself. Head down to Fisherman's Wharf, grab some cioppino, the famous fish stew, explore the Golden Gate Bridge. One of the things that people really love to do there is take in a little bit more than the city itself. This vacation includes a very popular small group tour, and that is our tour out to Muir Woods and the seaside community of Sausalito. Now, just like we talked about Amtrak maintaining all this wonderful health and safety standard when it comes to their trains, our tour partners have done the same thing with the sightseeing tours. So these are very limited in size, very small group, half a dozen-ish attendees, small vehicle, but plenty of spacing on board. So everybody's spread out on board as you're being transported out to Muir Woods and Sausalito from downtown, from Fisherman's Wharf, wherever we have you staying in the city. And you have an expert guide taking you out. So this is a very, very small group. You get so much one-on-one attention. They'll take you to the best spots, really explain the redwoods and this beautiful stretch of forest. And of course, down to Sausalito as well, this classic seaside community right there on the coastline. So that's all included as part of your stay in San Francisco, of course, along with your hotels. And we have a great selection of those to choose from. And then lastly, as you head back towards Chicago or points beyond, depending on where your trip is beginning and ending, you take the third and final train on this Northern Rail Experience vacation, the California Zephyr. Now, it's fair to say there's actually some debate. If you ask everybody at Amtrak Vacations, even if you polled all of us, you generally get roughly the same top three in terms of what are the most scenic, the most iconic trains. There's some difference of opinion. I will tell you, my favorite and probably the consensus favorite in terms of the most scenic train routes is the California Zephyr. And I'm going to share with you why. And on this vacation, you experience it from end to end, from San Francisco all the way back to Chicago, where the journey began. And over those 2 days, 2 nights traveling on board the California Zephyr, what makes it so special is the fact that you see every type of scenery North America has to offer. Every type. When you leave from the Bay Area, you head out to Emeryville, meet the train, take the train from Emeryville east. You're traveling through a little bit of the agricultural kind of heartland of California, some almond groves, orange trees. You see all that sort of thing as you head towards the Sierras. The train heads on up into the mountains through the Sierra Nevadas themselves. You go through famous and historic Donner Pass. You're literally following this train track kind of high above Donner Pass. Little bits of snow-capped peak back there if you catch it at the right time of year. And as the train continues east through the Sierras, you pass these amazing little mountain communities, places like Truckee, charming, charming little mountain towns, really quaint, very, very beautiful stretch of countryside. In fact, I have this fantastic photograph I took when passing Truckee the second time I did the California Zephyr, where the morning frost just kind of came up and coated everything with a little bit of mist. Really, really amazing photo. And really great experience. So that's just the beginning. So you travel through the Sierras. As you head down the east slope past the Sierra Nevada mountains, you head on into Nevada and Utah, where you're traveling across wide open deserts, folks. Beautiful, beautiful stretches of desert, occasionally passing tiny little communities located out in the middle of nowhere. Really breathtaking scenery. Upon reaching western Colorado, you begin to enter this amazing canyon country. Places like Glenwood Canyon as you pass Glenwood Springs, where the train is passing these amazing rock formations, following and hugging the course of the Colorado River as it sort of winds its way roughly eastward. It's amazing green waters, beautiful rocks on every side of you. And that canyon country continues as the train heads on up into the heart of the Colorado Rockies. If there is a centerpiece to this particular train journey, it's probably that stretch. It's the one it's most well known for. It travels up into the mountains, past places like Fraser, Colorado, snow-capped mountain peaks, jagged rocks, everything you expect the Rockies to be. And best of all, you're not outside standing in this frigid cold, the biting wind. You're enjoying these views from the comfort of the train. Breathtaking views from the train itself. From there, the train descends from the Rocky Mountains on towards Denver. When the train stops, usually there's a little bit of an extended stopover in Denver. I recommend getting out and checking out historic Denver Union Station, incidentally. Definitely a treat. And then it continues on through kind of big sky country, through this amazing prairie as you head on up towards Chicago and conclude your trip. So as I mentioned, a little bit of every type of scenery just in that last journey. And between the 3 trains, truly a cross-country journey with so much sightseeing to do, not only in 2 great cities, but on 3 of the most scenic and iconic train routes Amtrak has to offer. So Northern Rail Experience, I think we'll all agree, really takes in just about everything a train journey could be. You can see why it's so popular. And again, trains, hotels, and all the elements of a great vacation made easy by us here at Amtrak Vacations. Now, I wanted to come back to a point I touched on earlier, and that was customizing a trip. I mentioned, for example, in Seattle, when we could see that great shot of Mount Rainier in the background, that type of a day tour, like we could actually include that for you as part of your stop in Seattle. Maybe you want to do that instead of maybe the Space Needle. Perhaps you've done that before if you've been to Seattle. Maybe you want to extend your stay and add a night or 2 and spend some time exploring the area and do that type of a journey out to Mount Rainier National Park. That's just one of many types and ways in which we can modify each and every one of these vacations. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, these aren't group trips. You're not traveling with strangers at all. There is no set agenda you have to follow. Every one of the vacations we feature today and online are our best sellers, but every one of them can be tweaked, modified, and enhanced to suit your taste. And the fact is everybody's a little bit different, folks, right? Like everybody has things that interest them, don't interest them. Maybe they've always wanted to get to a certain destination and our 2 nights just isn't enough. Well, that's no problem. We can extend your stay. We can, of course, build the trip out from wherever you need it to begin and end. We can add on destinations that aren't even included. So if you like Northern Rail Experience, but you've always wanted to go to Glacier National Park, and I mentioned it, I believe, briefly earlier, no problem. We can modify this trip to tuck Glacier National Park right in the middle of that Empire Builder journey for you. Head out to Yosemite. We have day trips that go out there, or to Napa from San Francisco. So additional sightseeing, additional nights, adding on extra destinations, round trip rail from your hometown, and of course, upgraded hotels where we have 3, 4, and 5-star options, all entirely possible. Just when you give our team a call, let them know what you're thinking. Let them know what your taste is. Let them know for sure if there's a special occasion and that's where you may want certain upgrades and things like that. Let our team know what interests you, and they'll be happy to make those adjustments. Very, very easy. So another great vacation featuring yet another popular train route is Rails to the Grand Canyon, a short getaway out to one of America's best loved national parks. Basically, guests are going to head on from the West Coast from LA on board the Southwest Chief. It's an overnight train journey again, traveling through that very classic Southwest scenery that you expect to see on board a train through Arizona, and ultimately arriving the next morning to a little town called Williams, Arizona. If you're not familiar, and I would expect that probably many of you are not, it is a tiny little Route 66 town. It's actually located right on Old Route 66. It has all that you'd expect that goes with that. It has the diner, and it has the shops with their kitschy Americana. It has a saloon. It has those types of things. Some pretty scenery in and of itself. The Bill Williams Mountains kind of frame it right in back. But the reason you're going to Williams, Arizona is not for a Route 66 experience. It's because the real reason this town is known is because of its association with the Grand Canyon. It is the gateway to the Grand Canyon officially, and the starting point for your next train journey, which is on the Grand Canyon Railway. So having taken Amtrak overnight to Williams, you'll arrive in the morning, you'll head on over to the Grand Canyon Depot. We have an included breakfast for you at the Fred Harvey restaurant, so you can relax, freshen up, enjoy a good meal. Before this next train departs, there's actually a free Wild West show right there. You're welcome to enjoy. They do a great job with a fun little presentation, a little bit of local color. And then, of course, you board the Grand Canyon Railway itself to head on up to the south rim of the canyon. Grand Canyon Railway is not Amtrak. It's a slightly different train experience. On board, particularly if you upgrade from coach into first class or dome or luxury parlor, as you upgrade, it really starts to feel more like a classic Southwest type of train experience on board. In fact, particularly with the luxury parlor class where you have these amazingly upholstered compartments, really, really amazing and comfortable. You have, of course, on the train live music, beautiful views of this Ponderosa pine forest landscape that you're traveling through with little scrubby creeks, wildlife, elk herds, that sort of thing. So beautiful scenery, fun onboard experience. There's snacks and live music available, particularly as you upgrade in class. And not only great views available from the dome, for those that do upgrade to luxury parlor, there's actually an open air viewing platform on the back of one of the train cars. So you can actually step out, enjoy the fresh air, and really be part of the landscape that the train is traveling through. And that Grand Canyon Railway journey, very quick one, a couple hours, runs you right up to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And I mean right up to the south rim of the Grand Canyon, folks. We're going to see in just a moment how close exactly. But basically, you get off the train, walk up one set of stairs, and you're looking down into the canyon itself. And this is such a popular destination, I really don't need to over-explain it, I think. I imagine we're all very familiar with what the Grand Canyon is. Probably on many of your bucket lists already. If it wasn't already, I imagine it soon will be if you haven't had a chance to visit at this point so far. I do have to tell you, and those who have been before, I hope agree, you can put up a million photos of the Grand Canyon, but until you've actually stood there and looked down, from the rim into the canyon itself, no photo will ever do justice to that actual firsthand view. It is absolutely a magnificent place to visit, folks. As I mentioned, our train brings you right up to the south rim itself, so you can get these views firsthand. And when I say it brings you to the south rim, you get off the train at the station right there at the south rim. If you were to walk up the stairs just beyond the station, they would take you right up next to the historic El Tovar Hotel, which you see on the left side of your image there, which is perched right on the edge of the cliffs. But what happens for our guests typically upon arrival is you arrive to the station, your baggage is taken over to whichever of the hotels you're staying in, and we work with everyone at the South Rim, the historic El Tovar, the Thunderbird, Kachina Lodge, Bright Angel, another historic lodge, the Yavapai, you name it, all very, very historic and classic, all of which longstanding partners of ours. And best of all, I should tell you, this can be a hard trip to book, particularly for those historic hotels. We have access available to you and nobody else does, folks. So another great benefit is when it comes to national parks, these really are where our expertise shine in addition to the train part of it. So in any case, guests arrive, you will have your luggage taken to your hotel of choice, wherever we've booked you for. And the guided tour that's going to bring you around the South Rim for an introduction of the canyon picks you up right from there. So they take you all around the South Rim, get you oriented, point out some of the best viewing points. and they return you back for plenty of free time to explore, relax, and enjoy on your own. You can be there for 2 evenings. If you want my inside tip with the Grand Canyon, if you do choose one of our vacations like this one that includes the Grand Canyon, the tour, the standing at the South Rim are all beautiful. Nothing holds a candle to being at the canyon when there's a Grand Canyon sunrise. And I recommend doing it for sure. 3 of the 4 times I've been fortunate to go, I've done that. And I will tell you, even if you're not a morning person, and some of you are probably cursing me right now, like I'm saying, Andy, like I'm booking a vacation. Why are you telling me to get up early and set an alarm clock? Well, I will tell you, if you actually do this experience, you will, I think, agree it was worth a little bit of an early morning, even if you're on vacation, particularly if you catch it the way I have on 2 of those 3 occasions where I saw the sunrise. Twice when I went and saw this happen, it wasn't just the sunrise over the canyon. I actually got to see one of those mornings where the clouds are not only overhead being lit up, golden, orange, red colors by the sunrise, but also the clouds that were forming in the canyon itself. And the 2 times I went, it was absolutely like a bowl of smoke below in the canyon. And when the sunrise came up, it lit up all the clouds above and below and basically melted away that whole cloud cover inside the canyon itself, revealing a whole other view. So really, really breathtaking. Without overselling it, you definitely should do this. Put it on your list. Even if you're not a morning person, you definitely need to see a Grand Canyon sunrise. And either way, with your 2 nights there after your guided tour, plenty of free time to explore all around the South Rim, this tiny little village and community full of the hotels, of course, but also historic buildings like the Hopi House and plenty of vantage points for viewing the canyon itself. After your 2 nights at the South Rim or longer, we can extend your stay if that's something you're interested in. Again, all customizable. You will reboard the Grand Canyon Railway, traveling back to Williams, enjoying an included dinner there before hopping back on the overnight train on the Southwest Chief back to Los Angeles. So nice quick getaway featuring both a classic train route and overnight train journey in one of the most beautiful national parks you're going to see anywhere within the United States. Now, if you are considering a vacation, something like Grand Canyon is still popular not only for travel next year or the year beyond, because we do book up to 2 years out, but we are still seeing people traveling in 2020. Either they put off a trip or as things have opened up a little bit more, are eager to get out and do something before the end of the year. Whether you're traveling in the short term or the long term, you may have that question, and I've gotten this a lot, where I've had customers say, I'm very interested in going, I want to travel, I postponed a trip, I need to go out and do something when the time is right, but I'm concerned. And I get that concern. I understand it because we've seen so much change this year. I, like probably many of you, had a vacation put off because of this experience, had to cancel and kind of put that dream trip on hold. And if you're thinking about booking and you just want to be sure I can book, but still have the confidence that no matter what happens, you're taken care of, I would direct you to take a look at our maximum flexibility offer. Basically what it means, folks, is as long as you are booked with us by December 31st, should anything arise to disrupt your travel plans, whether that's something in the world or whether something comes up in your personal life or you're just not ready to go, whatever the reason, if you're booked by that point and up to 5 days prior to the trip, you let us know you can't make it, every single penny you've invested in your dream vacation, every single one is protected. There is no penalty, no surcharge, no cancellation fee, nothing. We move every bit of that investment to either the same trip on a future date or to a completely different vacation. If you were going to Grand Canyon and now you want to go to Yellowstone, no problem. We have both. We're happy to make those changes for you. So it allows you to plan for the future, to plan an amazing vacation, to get excited about traveling again, and know that no matter what happens, Amtrak Vacations has you taken care of. In any case, let's talk about some more great train journeys and vacations. So I already highlighted how beautiful the Empire Builder route was running between Chicago and Seattle. Well, I have to say, every single year we send thousands of guests not only on this train, but to stop off and explore Glacier National Park, one of the crown jewels of the United States National Park system. Glacier National Park Express is one of the most popular itineraries guests follow with us to do exactly that. Beginning with 2 nights stay in Chicago, hotels, again, you choose from our selection of hotels. We have some sightseeing included for you in Chicago as part of this vacation, including one of my favorites, which is a sightseeing architecture cruise down the Chicago River. The city is famous for these amazing architectural treasures, these amazing buildings all over the city, and the chance to actually do a tour by water and see these amazing landmarks, one of my favorites, certainly a highlight of this vacation. So you'll spend a couple nights in Chicago, explore, do that cruise, then depart on the Empire Builder cross country. And you get a sense, this is the observation car on board, you get a sense of the type of scenery available, whether it's mountains, whether it's these amazing stretches of pristine forest. The train travels through some beautiful stretches of countryside before ultimately arriving to Glacier National Park. This is actually the historic Glacier National Park Amtrak station. It's not only a charming little historic station building, it also could not be more convenient. And it's funny, moments ago we just talked about how our Rails to the Grand Canyon vacation literally drops you off right at the rim of the canyon. Well, the same is largely true in Glacier National Park, where this station is located exactly 209 steps away from the front of the historic Glacier Park Lodge. So you disembark the train, the porters take your luggage straight over to the hotel. You stroll up the lawn, taking in the mountain views, and get checked in for a 3-night stay and an exploration of one of the best national parks in America. In addition to the 3 nights hotel stay, the train, all the other things that have been included so far with this vacation, your stay in Glacier National Park gives you a chance to explore Glacier 2 different ways. One, by water, where we actually transport you into Two Medicine Valley and have you cruise the lake there, taking in the shoreline, the mountains, wildlife, which are often seen watering along the shores of the lake. You do that tour by water. Then you also tour by land. We have included something called the Big Sky Circle Tour. It takes place in these little historic buses, sometimes known as red jammers or red buses. They are a classic sightseeing tour bus. They can, in fact, roll back the top when the weather is nice to let the fresh air in so you can really breathe that mountain air while you're touring. And that tour will bring you to all the best spots within Glacier National Park. It'll take you to Marias Pass and Logan Pass. It'll go for a stop at Lake McDonald to see the amazing stretch of forest there, a wildlife viewing at Goat Lick, and perhaps the most well-known, a journey along Going to the Sun Road, which runs right through the heart of Glacier, where you're basically traveling on this amazing mountain road, hugging cliffs and ledges and overlooking beautiful valleys, and ultimately running from the southwest all the way up to St. Mary's Valley and St. Mary's Lake in the northeast. Really beautiful way to experience the park. And just like with our other tours, space is limited, distance is maintained, all very healthy, all very small group, and ultimately unforgettable. So after the 3 nights and that full exploration by land and water of Glacier National Park, you reboard the Empire Builder, travel overnight, pass through the Cascade Mountains, and arrive for a 2-night stay and an exploration in Seattle. Now, this trip can end in Seattle. Some guests may fly home from the end of this journey. Others will take the train back to their starting point, wherever your hometown may be, or to points beyond. If you want to continue your journey, again, we can add another destination or more to this. If it's not exactly the way you want it to be, let us know what you're looking for. Maybe you want to head on down and explore San Francisco afterwards. That's no problem, folks. So that's Glacier National Park Express, one of our great scenic train journeys combined with one of the best national parks we have to offer. And again, Glacier National Park can be a very tricky experience to book, and we have that space at the parks when nobody else does. Now, if destinations are less what you're focused on and you want to spend more time taking in scenery from the train, and I can't blame you, we saw a number of the best, most scenic train journeys there are today so far, you might want to consider something like our Grand Rail experience, which really crosses coast to coast and corner to corner throughout the United States, taking in not 1, 2, or 3, but actually 5 amazing scenic train journeys and stopping in some of the most iconic destinations you could stop at along the way. So the journey begins out of Chicago, traveling 2 nights west on the Empire Builder. That, by the way, folks, is Glacier National Park. It's St. Mary's Valley. But you're traveling basically right through the mountains, right past Glacier National Park as you travel on the Empire Builder out to Seattle. Spend some time there, do the sightseeing as we've spoken about before, hopping on the Coast Starlight and taking it its full length from Seattle down to Los Angeles. So you get not only that great scenery in the Pacific Northwest as you cross DC and Oregon, this beautiful alpine scenery, but you also get the southern half where the train hugs the Pacific coastline all the way down to LA. So you literally, folks, have outside one side of the train, the amazing foothills of California, and on the other side of the train, the Pacific Ocean stretching right off to the horizon. It could not get more spectacular when it comes to scenery from a train. You'll do a brief 1-night stay in Los Angeles, but still plenty of time to explore with our included sightseeing. You can visit, tour around, see some stars homes, do the stars, the famous Walk of Fame while you're there, and ultimately board your next train journey, the Sunset Limited. The Sunset Limited will run from Los Angeles southern end of California, basically following the southern border of the U.S. east out towards New Orleans. And it's a real stunning study in contrast. When you leave and you're traveling in the western half of this journey, and it's a 2-night journey east, the first half of it is through classic desert scenery. Absolute wide open spaces, cacti, you name it. It's exactly the postcard image of the desert you have in your mind's eye from a million movies, from a million storybooks. Beautiful, beautiful western scenery. Then in the eastern half, you begin to pass through the foothills of East Texas. It's amazing hill country on the east side of Texas. Then ultimately on through a stretch of bayou as you enter Louisiana and on into the city of New Orleans. So as I said, an amazing study in contrast from one end to the other on the 2-night journey that is the Sunset Limited. You stop for a couple nights in New Orleans, have a chance to explore the Big Easy. Again, we have included sightseeing. We have a guided tour option included for you, as well as a dining experience at a classic restaurant called the Court of the Two Sisters, where you do this amazing jazz brunch that you get to partake in while you're there. From there, you're going to board another scenic train journey, one we haven't mentioned before as well, and that is the Crescent train, which runs from New Orleans. In this case, it's going to take you as far as Washington, D.C. I've had the good fortune to do this train journey, which is sometimes overlooked. When everybody looks at train journeys, they think Western United States. The Crescent has some amazing spots to view as you take that route up to D.C. from New Orleans. Beginning with a stretch of the bayou, of course, as you leave out of Louisiana. It passes a really unique site at a place called Moundville, Alabama. We're just outside the train. There's this amazing archaeological site where archaeologists have excavated this series of prehistoric burial mounds that belonged to native peoples thousands of years ago. And you literally pass right through the archaeological site. Right outside the window is this amazing discovery. It travels overnight. The next day, as you approach DC, you're traveling up through the Blue Ridge through this amazing stretch of the Appalachian Mountains. Upon reaching DC, the train enters in a tunnel, and when it pops out of the tunnel, you're in the heart of DC. It comes up, and no joke, folks, literally the Washington Monument rises up right in front of you. Couldn't be more dramatic. The train winds its way around the Capitol building and into historic Union Station. You'll stop and have a chance to explore Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, with so many attractions to offer. But the thing I love about our stay in D.C. is the included sightseeing here in this vacation, folks, is one of our best reviewed and most loved sightseeing experiences. And that's the Monuments by Moonlight tour. If you think the Capitol building, the Washington Monument, the Jefferson Memorial, if you think these are beautiful during the day, this guided tour experience at night when all these monuments are lit up pearly white against the night sky is going to absolutely blow your mind. Be sure to have a camera handy. These are beautiful sightseeing experiences around the nation's capital with an expert guide. And again, small, intimate group. From DC, you'll board your final train journey aboard the Capitol Limited, cutting across the countryside on up towards Chicago. And if you catch the time of year right, getting a foliage experience through the mountains there can be absolutely stunning. So if you're considering a last-minute trip for this year, this can be an excellent one, folks. Either way, you're traveling in comfort on board, taking in these mountain scenes, this farm country, these really beautiful pastoral landscapes, all the way back to Chicago, where your journey ends. So if you're looking for a comprehensive trip around America by train in maximum time, enjoying the scenery, the landscape, the countryside by rail, Grand Rail Experience is an excellent option to consider. One more vacation I wanted to feature is a little bit further east. So we spoke for a while there about some great Western trains. We talked about the Southeast and the Crescent that runs up. But particularly for those considering a last-minute trip in 2020, you should consider our Portland and Acadia National Park Getaway. Right now is prime foliage season. Full confession, I'm a native New Englander, so I have a soft spot for foliage and foliage trips. And I have to tell you, Maine in particular, amongst all the states in New England, has some of the best foliage scenery. For last-minute trips, as I mentioned, this can be a great vacation to consider. Guests will generally travel up to Portland on a train called the Downeaster, this classic train journey that runs right up from Boston to Portland, Maine, traveling through some amazing foliage and right on up through New England as it approaches Portland, where you'll stop off for a couple of nights. From there, guests pick up the included car rental after exploring the city of Portland and get to drive up the stretch of coastline to Acadia National Park for a couple of nights stay right there. And Acadia National Park, it's funny, the Western parks get all the press, the Grand Canyons, the Yellowstones, the Yosemites, and they're famous for good reason. They're magnificent. You absolutely have to go and see them. But Acadia really is something special with its own beautiful mountain scenery. Of course, at this time, everything in these dramatic displays of color as the foliage is really starting to peak in these next couple of weeks. And it's a really special location too. It's somewhat unique in that the entire national park is actually located offshore of the mainland. It's actually located on the largest island off the coast of Maine. So you drive on up, cross this little bridge, stop and spend a couple evenings there and explore the park. It can be beautiful any time of the year, but I have to tell you, if you're looking for something to travel before the year is up, this can be an amazing experience and one certainly worth looking at. Now, before our time runs out, I did want to spend some time not just talking about great train routes, some of the best scenery, some of our most popular itineraries and ways you can explore and experience those, but I also wanted to share a little bit about what life on board is like, some of the most common questions and things guests want to know or potential guests want to know. So what is it like traveling on the train? So we talked about the great scenery. We talked about the comfort, and we're going to share a little bit more about the different types of accommodations and how those work. It's so much more relaxing than being on board a flight, that's for sure, where you can actually get up, move around, and kind of explore while you're traveling on these journeys. And of course, the scenery is brought right to you. Unlike flying, no one has really ever gotten off a plane and said to you, I'm sure, or at least it certainly never happened to me. No one's ever come back from a journey and said, this flight I took was beautiful. the scenery, the things I saw, that never has probably happened to you. It certainly never has happened to me. But it certainly will when you take your first Amtrak vacation trip. You'll have that experience yourself. But what are some of the other things you should know in addition to the scenery, the comfort, and all those elements we've been speaking about? One of the big things is how generous it can be to travel by train. And what I mean by that is your ticket includes so much to begin with, particularly if you're traveling in an upgraded accommodation. And one of the first things you should know is every guest, whether traveling in coach right on up through a private bedroom, is allowed, in terms of luggage, 2 carry-on bags and 2 check bags free of charge. Meaning there's only one ticket price. There's not a regular price, then a price that includes bags, and a price that includes check bags. Every passenger is carried 2 carry-ons and 2 check bags, regardless of class of service you're traveling in. That means that whether you're traveling for a 2-week trip and you're packing for all seasons, all weathers, outdoor spaces, and warm destinations as you maybe circle around the U.S., it also means if you're traveling out on shorter journeys, you can take what you need with you. And if you're anything like my family and I, when we travel and you're picking up an extra bag full of souvenirs here or there and you need a little bit of extra luggage space, no problem, folks. You're not going to be charged for that. It's all very, very generous, all included in your ticket price. In terms of accommodations on the train, it's worth mentioning coach, which is the way most guests will travel on board. Most guests, even on overnight train journeys, travel in coach. I've had the good fortune to do an overnight train journey in coach as well as the roomette and bedrooms, which we're going to see in just a moment. I got to tell you, folks, it's extremely comfortable. If you were going to compare it to another type of service, it's kind of in the range of business class on an airline. It's probably a good comparison. It's very roomy. You get a sense of that in that image right there where you can stretch way out either to relax or to sleep. There is no middle seat, you'll probably notice on there. So you're always in either a window or an aisle seat. Right now, with that limited capacity on board the train where Amtrak is limiting the number of guests for social distancing, it also means a row between you and anybody else. So truly a comfortable, solitary space with these amazing views just out the window. Unlike traveling on an airline, you are not confined to your seat either. You will never see, and you can tell in the image there's no sign above your seat saying stay buckled, stay put, don't move. We'll let you know if you can go to the bathroom, if you can get up. Guests and coach can get up and explore. You can head on down to the observation car with a book or a camera to relax and enjoy the views. You can wander down to the lounge car to pick up a snack, a beverage to relax with. Or if the scenery is better on one side of the train than the other, you can literally change from one side to the other to go ahead and enjoy those amazing scenic views. So very, very comfortable way to travel. Luggage or your carry-on bags can be stored there at your seat. And as I mentioned, 2 free check bags, regardless of whether you're in a coach or a private room. Now, where do some of the differences begin when you move up to a private room? If you book into an upgraded accommodation, right off the bat, everybody boards separately. So unlike being at an airline check-in where you have one gigantic line with everybody in it, all kind of mashed together, coach passengers board in their section, roomette passengers board at their cars. Everybody's a little bit more spread out on board. And of course, once on board, one of the great benefits of upgrading is truly having your own private space. Not only does it give you a little bit of seclusion from other travelers, it means that when you just want to enjoy the scenery or have a quiet moment, you can close the door, draw the blinds, and kind of be in your own little world on board. Each sleeping car also does come with the services of a car attendant who's there to assist in so many ways. They maintain a little snack station with water, with coffee, with little extras you may need. They can answer questions. They can also assist with other things too. We're going to come back to meals and dining in a minute, but they have a role in assisting with that. They also assist with making up the beds from the compartment is converted for sleeping at night. It's their job to come in at the right time and help convert the sitting area to a sleeping compartment. Now, when it comes to sleeping compartments, there are three types we're going to touch on today. The first of which is the roomette. It's the most common way people upgrade on the train. During the day, it is a sitting area for up to two people. Up to two people, and that is it can be booked as a solo traveler or it can be booked as a couple, two people. If you book it as a solo traveler, I get this question a lot. You're not going to have someone else in there with you who you do not know. If you book it on your own, it will just be you in the room. It's never a time where you're booked in there with a stranger. During the day, you have your two comfortable seats, the big viewing window, fold-out table, plugs for your electrical devices and charging, and of course, space for your carry-ons. You also have access to the full-size shower and bathroom that's in the car for roomette passengers alone, which is maintained by the car attendant. And then, of course, during the evenings, as I mentioned, the car attendant will come down and convert the compartment for sleeping, one upper and one lower bunk. What I usually get is questions about whether there's any compartment that allows two adults to sleep on the same level, both down low. There is not, although I will say getting in and out of the upper and lower bunks, very, very easy for most guests. But there is an upper and a lower bed in the roomette. The bedroom, the next type of accommodation on board the train you can upgrade to, is very similar to the roomette in several respects. It is a compartment for one or two people. During the day, there is seating, although it's a little bit larger, so you not only have a little bit more square footage in the room, but you also have one of those seats as a bench seat. Same thing with the fold-out table, the viewing window, plug access, and places for your carry-on bags. Where it differs a little bit from the roomette, in addition to a little bit of extra space in that bench seating, really is the private and bathroom and shower facility that's actually included within the compartment specifically for your use, that compartment alone. Just like the roomette, you can see the upper and lower beds there as they're set up for sleeping. The third type of upgraded room I was going to mention is the accessible bedroom. In terms of layout and amenities, it's very much like a roomette, but with a slightly different shaped compartment that basically makes it easier for anybody potentially using a wheelchair or with mobility challenges to access and use the space. So those are also available, all of which can be accessed and upgraded on your vacation when you give our team a call and just let them know you're interested in. Now, all of the upgraded rooms come with a very nice perk as well, and that is that all meals that take place on board the train while you're traveling in a sleeping accommodation, all those meals are included in the price of your ticket. So great meals, all taken care of as part of your fare. You can either dine in the dining car, which is still an option, all socially distanced, of course, and clean like everything else to do with the train. But you can also take advantage of in-room dining. So your car attendant, amongst their many other roles, is also to either make you a reservation for the dining car or to take your order and have your food delivered to your room so you can dine in the privacy of your cabin if that is your preference. And onboard dining is a real treat. If you're imagining airline food, when I say onboard dining, dismiss that notion from your mind, folks. Onboard dining with Amtrak is excellent in any time. I'm talking breakfast that can be waffles, it can be an omelet. Dinner may be a steak dinner or a special entree. There's so many options. And again, if you're in a sleeping car, a sleeping room compartment, every meal included on your ticket while you're traveling on board. So before we get to your questions, I just wanted to run through a few quick reminders and housekeeping items. First, there are some great discounts available. Our flash sale has been extended through this week. So if you're looking to take advantage of some of the great pricing that's out there, if you want something to look forward to for 2021, or maybe it's last minute travel for this year, regardless, give us a call at 800-268-7252. Let our rail and vacation experts know whether one of the great trips we spoke about today, one you saw on the line, or something in between needs to be modified, adjusted. We can book that for you. You can take advantage of that sale running with up to $500 off per couple. There are also some everyday discounts available on the rail portion of your trip. So any children ages 2 to 12, seniors, or active duty military and their families are entitled to those everyday discounts. Be sure to let our team know if you believe you qualify, and they will apply it for you. I also wanted to mention, and you can throw a comment in the chat if this is something you're interested in. We have some upcoming webinars as well. So thank you for joining me today. And I'm going to get to a few questions before we run out of time in just a moment. But I did want to say, if you found today's presentation informative, and we covered a lot of ground, so apologies if we went through a lot very, very quickly, but I wanted to share as much as we possibly could with you. If you found that helpful, informative, maybe even a little bit inspiring and fun, we'd love to have you back again, folks. We have a couple more presentations coming up for Amtrak Vacations through the month of October. On October 6th, for example, we're going to be doing tips for traveling in the sleeper car. So spending a little bit more time on the sleeping car experience, what that's like, and some things you should know. And then again, on the 13th, we're going to be talking about U.S. national parks specifically. So where today we really spent a lot of time talking about the most iconic routes, on the 13th, we're really going to spend some time on trips to go to the national parks specifically. And those really are a specialty of ours. As I mentioned, not only do we get to so many of them, literally dozens of them, but oftentimes we're the very best way to reach them and make sure you can get space and book into a great national parks trip for this year or next. So before I take your questions, I do have one for you folks, and feel free to share in the questions box. I'd love to know what destinations interest you. Is it something I featured today? Is it one of the great train routes I featured today? Is it something completely different that we didn't get a chance to cover? Please feel free to share. I would love to hear from everybody, because honestly, seeing so many of you turn out to learn a little bit more is a real inspiration. And just like you, I've been holding off on travel, and I have dreams of where I want to go to next. So please feel free to share. And I see a number of great responses in there. I see Grand Canyon, several Grand Canyons, California Zephyr. Yep, absolutely spectacular. Glacier National Park, New Orleans, Canada, the Rockies, national parks in general. Thank you, Genevieve. That's a great one. And we have a big selection of parks, as I mentioned. We touched on just a small tip of the iceberg with that today. Charleston and Savannah, great pair of destinations, absolutely. Wow. Yosemite, Pacific Northwest, beautiful. Acadia National Park, yeah. Again, full disclosure, I'm a New Englander, so I'm a little bit prejudiced, but I will tell you, it is absolutely spectacular. One of the 10 most visited parks in America every single year. Well, folks, thank you for sharing about that. So I loved hearing it. Again, thank you for taking the time to sit in on today. We're going to run out of time here in just a few moments. So without any further ado, let me see if I can get to a number of your great questions. I will promise this. We are not going to get through every question today. So if I don't get to yours, have no fear. I will make sure our team reaches back out to make sure you get the answer that you're looking for on your question. So let's see. And I see a number of great questions out there. Okay. Thank you so much, Pat. Appreciate that. No, you're very, very welcome, Will. We'd love to have you back again. Thank you. I can see a number of you have opted in for those upcoming webinars. Yeah, definitely drop that in the chat if that's something you're interested in joining us for. We'd love to have you back. So here's a question. Yogesh is asking, is vegetarian food available on board? Absolutely, yes. Vegetarian options are available on board. In fact, if you let our team know if you have any dietary restrictions or limitations, what they may be, just about everything can be accommodated on board the train. So great question. Yes, vegetarian options, absolutely. Okay. Okay, here's a couple of good questions. And I'm going to try to answer a couple that several of you have asked, so I can kind of lump them together. So there's a couple of different versions of this question. So right off the bat, I had a question from Tyler. Tyler's asking, if I want to modify one of your trips, what is the surcharge? No surcharge, Tyler. So if you mean like if you want to call and take one of our vacations and like we talked about, add an extra night or add another destination or some different sightseeing, that sort of thing. If you wanted to do that, if that means you're booking more, like the trip's getting longer, bigger, upgrading hotels, then those can change the price of a trip. But as far as like a surcharge or a fee, like a cost for doing that, there isn't one. It's a free service that we offer. So happy to do that. I got a question from Mary. I missed the first half. Will you send a recording? Absolutely, yes. Each of you, shortly after we conclude today, will get a link later on to review the recorded version of this presentation. Absolutely. Okay. The couple of versions of this question out there in regards to how dining is being managed on board the train. So let me answer this one, and I'll try to get to one more question with the time we have. So when it comes to dining, I spent a little bit of time on this. There's a couple different ways you can dine on board. Three, really, depending on whether you're traveling in coach or in a roomette. For guests who are traveling in coach right now, and eventually this will change back, I'm sure, but right now, you basically purchase meals out of the snack car. So you can go down, you can order, they have sandwiches, they have dinners, and they have everything right down to just snacks and light fare too. So you can head on down, purchase whatever you need there on board the train. For those traveling in sleeping accommodations, you have a couple different options. You can still dine in the dining car. You make a reservation with your car attendant. You go down the dining car. They limit space at any one time, so everybody's socially distanced. You enjoy your meal in that classic dining car experience, and then back to your room, back to the observation car, or what have you. The alternative, as I mentioned, is you can also dine in your room. If you order with your car attendant, they will have the meal delivered to your private room. And again, for the sleeping car passengers, all those meals are included as part of the fare. So that's how they're handling that one right now. Okay, one more question. Pat is asking, what is the best time to visit Glacier National Park? That's a very easy one for me to answer. It is in the summertime, and the reason is it has a very short season. Glacier basically opens up from late June through early September-ish is when you can really go and visit. Before and after that, the snows have set in and winter sets in early up there, and you really can't explore unless you're into some serious hiking or that sort of thing. So our season runs from that time. Because of that, it can be a very tricky place to book. And that's one of the great advantages. We really have space at Glacier when nobody else does. Plus, of course, taking care of the trains, the guided tours, the boat cruise, all the transportation, all the pieces that go with that. But yeah, it's definitely a summer travel experience. If you're looking for national parks and that season doesn't work for you, we have a wide range of options. So give our team a call at that 800-268-7252, Pat, or anyone else who's looking at that. If you can't make summer work or looking to do something for winter, and we can point you in the right direction. So folks, I apologize. We are out of time for today. Again, so many great questions. I'll make sure our team follows up with you to get you the answers you're looking for. But I just want to say one more time, sincerely, thank you so much for taking the time today, for asking some fantastic questions during the presentation, for sharing what you're thinking about for travel, and for continuing to consider Amtrak Vacations for your future vacations. So when you're ready, folks, give us a call at 800-268-7252. If you know where you want to go or you need a suggestion, let our rail and vacation experts know where you are, and they'll be happy to help out any way they can. You can certainly visit us at amtrakvacations.com if you're still looking for some inspiration as well. And of course, if you have a travel agent or travel advisor you enjoy working with, we work with them as well. Just let them know you're considering a trip with us, and they'll be in touch to help us plan your amazing dream vacation. Folks, have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you out there traveling on the train very, very soon. Take care.